Killzone 3 is a fantastic way for Sony to start 2011. If you love Killzone 2, you have plenty of reason to look forward to 3. The story is weaker this time around, and the characters aren't quite as likable, but it has great set pieces and pacing. It might not be the best shooter I've ever played, but this is an awesome option for PS3 owners, both for single and multiplayer.
The Higgs are gonna pick us off one by one.
Developer Guerrilla Games is a master of the first-person experience. Like the previous Killzone games, 3 does a good job of making you feel like you are actually your character. When you climb ladders, the camera moves appropriately. When you reload, your character looks at their weapon. Every action feels like there's a human behind it instead of a camera with arms. The attention to movement helps immerse you, but what really grabbed me were Killzone's graphics. The visuals of Killzone 3 are among the best on the platform, with beautiful explosions and chaotic battlefields that really bring the feeling of war in a way that few games do. Sure, you may not be fighting aliens on foreign-looking worlds, but the destroyed buildings and crumbling streets really make this conflict feel tangible, reminding me of pictures I see from wars today.
I need some covering fire!
But while it has a pretty exterior, the narrative of Killzone is pretty boring. Your character, Sev, along with the rest of the ISA, are trapped on an enemy planet. But this desperation is never effectively conveyed or explored. The story pretty much jumps around in time without really explaining what happened in between, providing context for some fun-to-play levels, but making the story feel like an afterthought, and making the characters hardly worth caring about. It's disappointing too, because I really think that the theme of struggling for survival on a hostile planet could have been awesome if they'd developed it further. Also problematic for immersion are the occasional hiccups when it loads, or the way the game constantly fades to black between scenes. On my home system, it would pause for several seconds while loading, and it constantly fading in and out of darkness as a transition really breaks me out of the experience, something Killzone 2 almost never did. It may have a weaker story, but the pacing and combat are the best they've been in the franchise. The levels vary from secluded jungle and snow environments, to destroyed cities full of enemies and allies duking it out, to empowered vehicle sections that make you feel like a badass, and give you a reprieve from the man-to-man, tit-for-tat soldier combat. Killzone 3 feels like you're traversing a wide swath of the world, and it places you in an array of situations that keep it from feeling stale or repetitive.
That's it! That's the last one!
I got used to the floaty controls of Killzone 2, but with 3, I felt accurate right off the bat. Killzone 3 may not be as snappy as the other shooters out there, but it's been tightened up considerably. Still, like you'd expect from this franchise, everything you do has weight. From the way your character carries his gun, to the heft of the weapons as they shoot out shot after shot. The weapons just feel more realistic this way. Well, as realistic as sci-fi weapons can be anyways. But you won't hear me complaining. I wouldn't trade shots where I can blast apart guys with crazy space energy for anything. The brutal melee attacks also really improve the feel of the combat. While they are a little gimmicky, it is really enjoyable to run up on an enemy and trigger a cool execution, especially in multiplayer. Ah yes, multiplayer. The campaign alone makes Killzone 3 a lot of fun, but the multiplayer is the reason it's a great product that people will stick with. The 3 modes are fun to play, offering both standard team deathmatch and more objective-driven options. And the revamped leveling system, where leveling means getting points you can actually use to buy what you want, rather than using a class to unlock abilities for just that class, is a welcome change. In the time I spent with it, no maps felt particularly imbalanced, and the various classes all felt useful. In short, this is a great online multiplayer game for PS3 owners, especially if you like the second one. I should mention that Killzone 3 works fine with the PlayStation Move, but unless you're looking for a really different way to play, it's vastly superior with a standard controller in hand. And if you're lucky enough to own a 3D TV, you can play Killzone with all kinds of visuals popping out at you.
Let's go!
Killzone 3 is a great game. The campaign is held back by the disappointing story, flat characters, far too liberal use of fade-ins and outs, and the occasional technical hiccup, but the set pieces and pacing are among the best the franchise has ever had. This is human-on-human combat done right, and Guerrilla turns scene after scene from first-person shooter into first-person experience. Combined with the fun multiplayer, this is a must-buy for PS3 shooter fans, and the type of game that non-PS3 owners should envy. For more information on Killzone 3, go to IGN.com.